Great. Kicking off then week 5 of our lead generation masterclass today. I'm your host, Alex Smith from Leadeth, and today's title is Writing Messages That Sound Human. This is a bit of a build-up. We've looked at all sorts of different things on these masterclasses, but it's all to do with LinkedIn lead generation and how to get better acceptance rate, better message response rates from your campaigns. And I'm a big fan of LinkedIn automation as well. So I'll drop some ideas and thoughts about how we're running campaigns as well. But do drop a comment if you're tuning into the LinkedIn Live. That should be streaming in as well. Some of you have joined our Google Meets room, which is great. That's just a little bit more interactive. You can ask questions there, and I can support you better in that environment. It could be you want to run through some ICP of your own business, and we want to apply the teachings from today to your own business, and that's the place to do that. So just one quick one. Drop a comment. Have you ever received a LinkedIn message that made you immediately think, this is clearly automated? What gave it away? I'm really curious in terms of those types of messages that you might have received, and also use them into kind of next week's call as well. But here's the thing. Over the last kind of 4 weeks, we've built the foundations, your customer avatar. We looked at the connection request formula, the automation framework, all brilliant and all necessary stuff. But there's one key skill that sits way above all those, and that skill determines whether your perfectly targeted, beautifully maybe automated outreach actually works or completely falls flat. And that's writing. Specifically, writing messages that sound like they came from a real human who's genuinely interested in the person that they are talking to, and not just burning through leads and running a bot running in some sort of sequence. So here's the uncomfortable truth of the week. Most LinkedIn messages do sound absolutely terrible. I could probably just go into my LinkedIn inbox right now and actually show you some of those, but due to data protection and privacy, I'm not going to do that. They're often really generic, very robotic, self-serving. So people would just be talking about themselves, I and me, and what they can get out of the relationship. And the person receiving them knows it within the first 5 words. And that problem is not normally the automation, but the problem is the writing. So when you have bad writing with automation, it just means you're sending out that bad messages on a faster burn rate. So today we're going deep into the craft of writing for LinkedIn, specifically connection, DMs, and the language patterns that work. We're going to look at the tone that builds connection, the structural techniques that are going to make your messages feel super personal, and even though they're templated and following a set of principles, people will feel they're just so real and coming from you. And that's what we want, that authenticity. And this is one of my favorite sessions of the entire series because it's where art meets science. So let's get straight into it. Before we talk about how to write well, let's understand why most people write really badly. And there's 5 specific patterns that immediately make messages feel robotic. And once you see them, you just cannot unsee them again. So robot tell number 1 is what I call corporate speak. And this is using language that nobody actually uses in a real conversation. Now, recently, a client of mine, he speaks in the leadership space. And when you kind of train up an AI bot or ChatGPT in leadership speak, it just output a load of corporate lingo, which doesn't make any sense to people. So when you if you're reaching out regarding, you've got to think, do real humans actually talk like that? So if Siri wants to chip into the conversation here this morning. But when we leverage, you talk about when we leverage innovative solutions to do this or do that, you've got to stop it. Or it could be you saying, I noticed your organization is blah, blah, blah. I mean, organization, just say company. We're here in the UK. We don't really use that term organization unless you're doing with lots of different like charities possibly. But I mean, just it's a company ultimately. So if you would not say it out loud to someone at maybe a coffee shop or a networking event, then don't bother writing it in a LinkedIn message. So that's the principle. And the moment that someone reads that kind of corporate jargon, they know that they're going to be sold to, and they don't like that. Secondly, the second robot tell is the obvious template. And I mean obvious. So hi first name, you can put their first name in there. But hi first name, I noticed company name is growing in the XYZ space. When you forget to replace the brackets, that's even more embarrassing. Really is. But even when you do replace them with the exact first name, the exact company name, and the exact industry, it still screams template, and you've really kind of lost. So templates are fine. I use them. I can show you some of those later. But you've got to use them really strategically. They need to feel like a starting point that you can then adapt from, not just from a letter that you kind of auto-filled. Robot tell number 3 is what I call the wall of text. If your message is too long, like one unbroken paragraph, 250 words, nobody is reading it, especially on mobile, which is a very fast, zappy kind of messaging platform. And that's where most people are checking their LinkedIn, to be fair. Short sentences, line breaks, plenty of white space. And these are just not, aesthetic choices, but they're very functional. They make you make that message just so much more readable. And if it's not readable, it's not going to get read. So, put in empty white lines after each short sentence and break it up. Keep it quite short and keep it to the point. People don't want a constant single narrative of text to read through, and they haven't got time for that. Robot tell number 4. That's all about leading with yourself instead of them. So some people write to me, I help businesses with X. Nobody really cares what you do until they know that you understand them. So leading with your credentials or your service is a guaranteed way to sound like every other salesperson in their inbox. People care about themselves, so start there. Talk about them, their business, their challenges, their world. And once you've established that initial rapport and you can understand them, then you can briefly introduce what you do, not before. And to be fair, your LinkedIn profile should do that for you. That's what your headline bio is for. If they're interested and want to click on you and connect with you, they'll read that from the bio. So don't keep your messages never about yourself. It's all about adding value to other people and how you can help them. Robot tell number 5 is what I call fake personalization. And this one is subtle, but it's pretty deadly. So an example for this one could be something like, hi, Sarah, I love your profile. Did you really? What specifically did you love? If you cannot say, Sarah knows you, did not actually look, then, you've got to do it. So if you say, hi, Sarah, I love your profile. Did you actually look at the profile? Because you need to back it up. People will pick you up on it. So even better, pick up on something from the profile. Congrats on your new role, James. So if James started that role 6 months ago, it's just clear that you've pulled it from his headline without actually checking the date. So do check the dates of job changes and things like that if you're going to lead with something like congrats on the new job role, James, or whoever whatever their name is, first name. That kind of shallow personalization is worse than no personalization, because it actually proves that you haven't been bothered to do the real research. So just to be honest, if you cannot personalize anything meaningfully, then actually just write a genuine good message, and you don't have to bother with all of that. Just be yourself. Get that message through there. Personalize it. Pick up on something on their profile. It will kind of shine. It should be obvious what that's about, and you can go forward with that. So those are the 5 robot tells. Let's move on to section 2, and this is what I call the 5 language patterns. This is what actually works. So let me give you the specific language patterns that makes messages feel so much more human. And certainly it's what we do with our clients at Leadeth. So pattern number 1, and this is the conversational opening. So start the way that you would start a real conversation, not a formal business letter. So we're not going to go for, "Dear Sarah, I hope this message finds you well." Instead, just go for something like, "Sarah, quick question." A bit blunt, a bit to the point, but it works really well. Another example, "Hello, James. I wanted to reach out to you today because ... So instead of that, you might want to think about doing something like this. "James, something you said in your post today got me thinking ... So those conversational opening things, they actually do 2 things. And it signals that the person is actually talking to a person, not a company talking to a prospect. And it creates that immediate curiosity. So it'll hopefully encourage them to click the accept and join your network. And hopefully you'll get a bigger acceptance rate when you start to use the conversational opening, especially on that getting connected message. If you're sending those, if you're doing campaigns on the back of a post or comment, then, or a group, then think about how you can get that conversation started in a very meaningful and personal way. Pattern number 2 that we see and have as part of our framework plan is the specific observation. And this is where you have to prove that you are paying attention to the prospect. So a generic campaign might read like this: "I see you work in marketing," whereas a specific campaign would be, "I noticed your post about the challenge of providing content ROI to finance teams. That's a nightmare." Slightly longer, but just so much more relevant to what they're talking about and where they're at. A classic generic one that I see all the time is, "I see your company is growing." So it could be you've seen that they're recently recruited or something like that. A more specific observation here would be, "Saw you just opened an office in Manchester. Scaling across regions brings some interesting operational challenges." So you're kind of teasing them in terms of this could really be resonating with them at this moment. You realized the exact location that they've opened, and this is a pain point potentially for them. So that specific observation, it can't be copied and pasted. And that's the point. It forces you to actually do the research, or you can get Claude or AI to actually do the research. And that's what we do at Leadeth. We kind of train AI to do that manual piece for us. So that when someone reads it, they immediately know that the message was written for them. Now, let's move on to pattern number 3. And this is what I call the honest transition. And this is the language that you use to move from, "I noticed this about you," to, "Here is why I'm reaching out." So a weak transition is often, "So I thought I would connect." Really weak. Everybody uses it. Could we connect? But a stronger transition here would be, "Which is actually why this caught my attention." So another example of a weak transition could be, "I would love to show you how we can help." It's a little bit salesy, bit pitchy. Whereas a strong transition could be, "We have been through that exact challenge ourselves." So you're meeting them in the trenches where they're at. And the honest transition doesn't hide the fact that you want something from them, but it just starts to frame you as asking relevant questions rather than just kind of random nonsense. So that's the honest transition, which you've got to try to fit in to your messaging. Number 4, so we're almost there. Number 4 is value before the ask. Always, always, always. Don't ask for a meeting in your first message. Don't ask for a call. Don't ask them to check out your website, visit your Calendly, or something first. A classic example could be something like this: "I put together a 2-page guide on reducing SaaS churn that might be useful. Happy to send it over if relevant." Adding that value up front. You could say, we tested 15 different email subject lines last month and found these 3 patterns that consistently doubled open rates. Worth sharing if helpful. So if you notice the language there that are used, might be useful, or if relevant, or if helpful. You're not pushing, you're actually offering. And there's a massive psychological difference when you kind of let them take the ownership of that conversation, whether they want to, accept and go further. So give them the option, but never push for meetings, never push for all these other types of things, websites, and giving them content. Pop a little ask out there. Ask them if you can add the value, and then hopefully get a positive response back, and then deliver the value. And the final one is what we call pattern number 5, and that is the low pressure close. So with the low pressure close, it's how you end the message that really matters enormously. A high pressure close might sound a little bit like this: let me know when you're free for a call. Whereas a low pressure close would be using words like worth a conversation if you're interested. Again, a high pressure close might be something like, I will follow up with you next week. A much low pressure close is no pressure either way. Again, another example of a high pressure close could be looking forward to hearing from you. Whereas that kind of low pressure version of that would be something like, only if it makes sense for you. So that low pressure close really gives the person permission to say no, and that's what we want. And it's paradoxically that that actually increases the likelihood that they will end up saying yes. It's a bizarre psychological thing, isn't it? But people don't like feeling that that they're trapped in with a new conversation with a stranger. So you've got to give them the space, and then often they'll choose to engage. So I'm going to show you what this looks like when all 5 patterns come together. So here's an example I've put together. Sarah, noticed your post yesterday about the nightmare of providing content ROI to finance teams. So that is very much a conversational opening, and we've got the specific objection around providing content ROI to finance teams being the issue that they potentially are facing. The next bit, the honest transition, is something we have been wrestling with ourselves. Then we've got the value before ask. We've actually built a dashboard that connects content engagement directly to pipeline, which made those conversations with finance dramatically easier. So it's kind of adding a bit of value in, the solution in. I'm just going to let another guest into the room. Okay, so here's another one, and this is the value before ask. So you could say, happy to show you what we did if it would be useful. So we're putting that value out there, and then we've got the low pressure close, which we've just looked at. No pressure if not. And then just sign off with your name. Keep it simple. You don't need a kind regards, such and such, best wishes, or just sign off with your name. It's just super simple that way and keeps it simple on LinkedIn. So there we go. That's the framework, that conversational opening, a specific objection, if you can put that in, honest transition, value before you ask, value before you ask is continued, and then we've got that low pressure close. So this is a great example. And if you're training GPT agent bots in all of this kind of stuff, it's a great one to then copy and paste out and get the bots to put it in your language. So write some example templates. If you write maybe 10 of these different scenarios for different industries, different ICPs, that creates you a bit of a bank that you can then refer to, or the bot can then pull out the most appropriate one, do its research on the prospect. So we're going to move on to section 3 now. And this is about building your, what we call the message library. because you cannot write every single message from scratch. It's just not scalable. And you need a template library that feels really personal, and it gives you that framework that you can then adapt from. So you need 4 components in your template library. So that's 4 different situations that probably cover about 80% of your outreach. Template number 1 is the content engagement message. So for when someone has engaged with your content or someone else's content in your space, it's really good to have what I call template 2, the mutual connection message. So this is when you have a real genuine mutual connection who's not just a random LinkedIn connection. That can be a really powerful way to build that trust so much quicker. Template number 3 is the trigger. So the trigger event message. So I use this for when something's just happened in their world, and that makes your outreach then super relevant to them. And then the 4th template, which we're going to look at, is the value first cold message. And that's when you've got no prior connection or trigger, but you genuinely believe that you can still help them. So you go in with the value. So content, mutual connections, we've got the insight triggers, and then we've got values, event triggers, and then values. So template 1, this is all about content engagement. So an example is, hi, first name. I just read your post on whatever the specific topic was, and make an observation about what they said. You then have talk about the connection of that specific observation to your own experience or insight. And then typically you offer the value. So pop that in there. And then the low pressure kind of close would be worth exploring if helpful. No pressure if not, is how you could end that sort of content engagement method. And this works really well because it actually starts with genuine engagement. They've put content out there, or a comment or a post or something. So then you're being engaged really meaningfully. And your follow-up message is just a natural extension of that interaction. So that's a really great strategy. We're seeing good results in terms of content engagement, post scrapes, things like that, group posts, LinkedIn posts, where you're scraping what other people are putting in on those posts. Template number 2 is what I call the mutual connection template. So for this one, I would do something like first name, both connected to name the mutual connection, and then go in with the specific reason that the mutual connection is relevant. And then throw in the observation about their business or the role. And then I would offer the value relating to that observation. And you could end with happy to connect if useful. So keep the onus on them, low pressure. And here's the key thing with the mutual connections, they've really got to be meaningful. If you're just name dropping someone that you're both connected to, but neither of you actually know that individual, then it's worse than saying nothing. You've really got to do it based on that relationship and that connection. But you don't know it until you try and push it out. So it's a great strategy going for mutual connections and getting good acceptance connection rate really high based off mutual connections. The trust is built, the connection is warm. Template 3, the trigger event. So obviously you've done some research and you can actually see, something's happened. So it could be a new role. It could be a funding announcement. It could be office opening somewhere new. It could be a new product that they've launched. And these create really natural, timely reasons to then reach out to them. So an example would be first name, saw whatever that event trigger was. So saw the new role, and then say why that trigger is relevant or interesting. Bring in your experience with similar situations so you can relate to them, and then offer some specific value that's related to that trigger. It's got to be relatable. And then always end with that, that low pressure close, only if relevant to where you are now. Something like that works really well. And the fourth template is the value first for those real cold leads. So again, this is hi first name, noticed something specific about their business or their role, give a super brief bit of context in terms of why you noticed, and then create that value offer with those specifics. So worth sharing if helpful, totally fine if not relevant. So that's going to be your go-to when you've got no hook, no content engagement, and no mutual connection. So even if you're training AI bots up in this, it's great because you can say, right, go first with this route if there's a new job at the company, or go secondly with something specific that they've commented on LinkedIn. So when you kind of train up an AI agent to kind of do the research stage, you can actually do it to do all of that and then come and land on the worst case scenario, which is going value first with template 4 if there's nothing else to go on with. So keep it pure, keep it relevant, and make sure that value is offered up front with, again, a low pressure close. And here's the critical bit. These are just kind of templates and starting points. They're not final messages. When you get to use a template, you've got to adapt it, change the structure slightly, add a sentence, remove one, make it feel like you wrote it fresh for this person every single time, even though you started with a template. And that's the beauty with AI, because we're training the bots on the templates, and then they're getting a bit more data from live, LinkedIn profile scrapes, and then they're applying something really hyper-personalized to the individual, thus saving you the time on that research stage. So the goal is to not have perfect templates that you can just copy and paste every single time, but the goal is to have a really strong starting point that you can then customize really quickly and without starting from that blank page. So we're going to come into land shortly. So this is the human touches. So let me tell you what automation cannot do. And this is kind of, could be where you are, it might not be where you are. But as a human, you've got this unfair advantage. Automation basically cannot notice the small specific things. It won't notice that specific comment or emoji or that somebody left on a post 3 weeks ago. It's getting cleverer, and this time next year it will be way more advanced. But at the moment, the manual research method is going to give you way better quality data. So you might want to go into an article that they shared, something relevant. What I'm finding is a lot of the AI bots out there at the moment just don't do enough deep research to go down into newsletters, into articles, into the grain of things, into the articles that share that relevant thing about how they might be thinking, or a conference that they said they were attending. So automation cannot adjust the tone based on how the conversation is going. You can ask it to mirror language. That's one thing that I get my bots to do, is to mirror language, try to mirror the language. But if somebody applies with humor, then, you've got to try and pick up on that. And then with a human touch, humans can mirror that. So if somebody replies formally, you can match that energy quite quickly. But we're getting so close now. We're getting really, really close for automation to literally sound and feel like so realistic. And that's the key thing. That genuine curiosity, if somebody says something is interesting, a human can ask the follow-up question, whereas often AI will miss that thing, why something particular might have been interesting. So at the moment, we've still got an edge over AI. So if you're doing this manually, great, use it to your advantage. AI is catching up so fast. I mean, it's incredible. The Claude Sonnet 4.6 now, which is crazy what it's doing with language and modeling and different prompts that you can throw into it. But think about those small touches, because they really do matter. And your sign off is one of those important small touches. Not best regards, your full name and your job title. Just keep it casual. Cheers, Mark, or thanks, Sarah. Just your name is ideal. And then some people don't even do their whole name. They just do the first letter of their first name. So the formal sign off, if you do that, that just screams of automated business message. Whereas a casual sign off just feels like a real person engaging. So think about when you're sending those messages, when you reference it really naturally. So it could be Monday morning. Hope you had a good week. Hope you have a good weekend. Obviously, it's not the weekend, it's a Monday. So things like that will get picked up on. It could be a Friday afternoon. Don't mean to add to your Friday inbox. You know, after a bank holiday, you could put, hope the break was good. So those sorts of time-specific things are really powerful. So I think that's one weakness with AI, is it doesn't know the exact day and month and time when it's writing the AI messages, or there's a delay where the message is buffered and then automatically pushed out. So if you can do it on the manual messages, I try and pick up on things like this. So when I have inbound messages, people write to me with inbound messages, that's when I go back one-to-one, me. The bot never kicks in on any inbound. It's only just on outbound campaigns that I have the bot use the bots. But those little tiny contextual references will make it super clear that a real human being has written the message at that specific time. And that's, robots just don't acknowledge weekends. They don't have rest in their program. So best practice, as always, obviously AI has really evolved, as we've been talking about, conversations that go to the next step. When people reply to your messages, try to put triggers in to stop automation if you can. If you can, manually follow up, it's going to be so much more relevant to the response that's been received. If you've got an automated campaign and you're driving them to a lead magnet and that's it, the aim of the goal is not to build relationship, but to drive them to the next thing, then that's, fair deal. Use the AI and share the web link. Once the web link has been shared, goal is complete, robot can shut off then. So think about your campaigns. What is the goal of those campaigns, and how you can really progress them is quite key. That's where you've got to step in, fully human to human. That's where we need to be on those inbound conversations, and any conversations that are, the potential prospect wants more information or whatever, get back to them yourself, ideally. So I've actually been booking a lot more calls by letting AI go, take over my campaigns. I've initiated contacts. It does a way better job than I could ever do, because it's just so much more efficient, so quicker, and it's picking up on the nuances that we've been starting to talk about. But make sure those replies are done within 24 hours. That's quite important. Acknowledge specifically what they said, ask maybe a relevant follow-up question, move the conversation forward naturally. And that's where meetings end up getting booked and deals are actually closed. Not in that first automated message, but often in the 6th or 7th human follow-up conversation message is where we're seeing. So here's your action plan for this week. Think of it like this. Day 1, audit your current message templates. Have a look at what you're doing, if you're doing anything. If you've got some old message templates that you were using 3 years ago, they could even be some of the Leadeth templates that we did a Google Doc probably around about 3 years ago, giving examples. A lot of that is kind of dead practice now and not really used. So this stuff is evolving. You've got to have a look at those 5 robot tells that we did right at the start of the session. Are any of those messages guilty of that? Fix them. Go in with the 4 pillars that we discussed. Day 2, think about the core 4 templates, the different patterns that we covered today. So think about like the content style. You've got the mutual connection style. We also looked at the value first style as well. So think about those differences. Go back over the video, watch that, and hopefully that will help you to kind of start to build out your own core templates. Day 3, set yourself a little challenge. Send 5 messages using those new templates and start to track which patterns are getting the best responses. It's super helpful. And if you've got that, which templates are working better for that audience. You can drive more traffic into the one that's working. It's a what I call almost like a data analytics way of looking at things and having a data-driven answer towards what you're doing. It's a smart way of doing it. Day 4, when someone replies, maybe practice the fully human-to-human follow-up. No templates, just a real conversation using the kind of the models that we spoke about today. And then day 5, it's not on the screen at the moment, but that is to review what's worked. And then you've got to double down on the patterns that got the responses and keep going. So the mindset that I need you to adapt on the back of this training is that you're not writing marketing messages. You're actually starting basically conversations. Marketing messages try to persuade, whereas conversations actually try to connect. And there's a big difference there. When you sit down to write that LinkedIn message, just ask yourself, would I genuinely say this to someone if I was in front of them having a coffee with them? And if the answer is no, just simply rewrite it. So that's a great thing. Now, if anything we've spoken about today has resonated with you, I would love to invite you to a few different things. We've got a free school community. That's leadeth.io/school, spelt SKOOL. Just come in there. You can catch up on some of these masterclasses. That's where the repository will live. There's been some great previous sessions. We've also got an opportunity for a one-to-one discovery call with me, just for me to get to know you a bit more, learn about your LinkedIn lead gen goals. Ideally, you're in the B2B space. It could be you're just struggling with getting more traction. Today, I spoke with someone who wanted more investment. It was an early product. You know, he's not even launched the product yet. He might have a couple of pilot people, beta clients on the cards, but he's going to be using Leadeth to reach out to an investor network and grow his investor network so we can get more meetings and pitch his new product to people. So the application for Leadeth is really varied. Ultimately, we help people to connect them with more people to grow your LinkedIn network, whether it's your end clients, strategic partners, whatever that might look like. We use software to do that and heavily leverage AI these days for that. So scan the QR code on the screen. That would take you to my booking page. I would love just to spend 45 minutes with you chatting around where you're at, what you're up to, and how I might be able to guide you and steer you. It's pure value. If you don't go away amazed or with any strategies that you didn't previously think about, I'd be amazed. But yeah, no cost to those at all, those discovery calls. So next week, we're going to be diving into what I call the 48-hour engagement window. So what happens immediately after someone accepts your connection request? So why 48 hours are absolutely critical, and the exact follow-up sequence that consistently drives around about 40 to 50% response rates. Feel free to drop a comment if you're watching this on the live, on LinkedIn Live, also on YouTube. This is going out. What's the worst LinkedIn message that you've ever received? I'm putting together a bit of a catalog. It's gonna help me with the future trainings, but I'd just love to hear some of the horror stories that you've previously had. So if you've got any that you've remembered, do send them in the comments, and I'll hang on the end of this call to pick up on those. But I just want to thank you for being here today, tuning in. So far, we're 5 weeks in. We're going all the way through till Christmas, till the end of the year, first few weeks of December, with a different session every single week. Adding value, adding content is what the game is. So hopefully you've upskilled a little bit. It's been a pleasure to have you here. We're going to go back to the room now. So if anyone's wants to chat in the room, we'll come off on the live stream and then take the rest of the meeting in the Google Meets room. So to access that, there is a web link on the event, either in LinkedIn, or you should have got an email from me to join the Google room. So we're just going to spend a bit of time now in the Google room.